If we could just tune into each other that way and support each other the way that we believe that we need to be supported, like what a beautiful world we could live in.
Oh, this is major. It's like the next big thing. Come catch the
Greetings and welcome to the Compromise to Alchemize podcast with me, your host, Dr. Neil Bolchandani. So a quick intro here to this guest who's already been on. So her reputation precedes her. This is our second time on the podcast. I'm always figuring out where to look because I'm using the cell phone version of StreamYard. So forgive me if you're looking at me and I'm looking somewhere else. But Gail Lynn, who is inventor, filmmaker, she is the creator of the Harmonic Egg, but she's got a new app, and we talk about that on the podcast. It's a pretty cool version that anybody can have access to, whereas it's not everybody out there who can actually purchase one of these extraordinary technology devices. But yeah, she'll talk about that. We get into a very, very cool smattering of topics around even the way she created her business structure to be more matriarchal versus patriarchal. We talk about some of the concepts that kind of intertwine with that on how we look at the way we put ourselves out there. Anyways, we get into a lot of good conversation. So it was just fun. Let's just say that it was just fun. And I am coming at you from LA on a trip with the family. So there is a lot of fun to be had. So just know that you can check out her prior episode where we talk about her origin story. And so for history on that, plenty of good conversation on that. If you are hearing this as it launches, I've got some exciting kind of events coming up in, first of all, my episode 3 or webinar 3 of the Cosmic Mandible, which you can jump in at any time on. There's also the events in New York where I'm teaming up with Melissa Mugno, the Mind Your Mouth, and at Floor 4. In between there, I'm actually going to Indianapolis to train an organization, which is really cool. I'll talk more about that closer to that. I just got back, oh my gosh, from an extraordinary experience in Denver, in Longmont, Colorado, and then also in Minnesota. And yeah, met some great people on both wings of that trip, which I will talk more about also, from getting to spend time in the Longmont at the Rebis Clinic, formerly known as the Colorado Sleep Institute, to hanging out with friend Kimmy Herrera, who's a myofunctional therapist. Getting to meet your very own Alyssa and her husband and her family from the podcast, which was awesome. They graciously hosted me, and also made my wing trip over to Minnesota, where I got to hang out in person finally after a couple years with Harvey Martin. And as it goes, that was pretty cool to have had that conversation on the podcast. That came from a post I made after hanging out with Darren O'Lean in Malibu, and that led to us interviewing on each other's podcasts and then meeting him in person. So I'll share more about that also, because there's just too much. But Gail, in this, she talks about having been interviewed for another documentary, and let's just say, like, there's a lot of good documentaries out there, but it's not easy to make them. It's not easy to find ways to be on them. So you'll kind of jump in this conversation after we chatted about some of that. But, we just felt like we wanted to share the most salient, most potent parts of it. So that's why in the intro, and when we jump to our conversation, you might hear like, oh, there's a little bit there that you might be missing, but that's okay. We wanted to have what was most relevant shared. So you'll be hearing the um, song Major, and Jessica from Lunalux. They've come out with some new music too, so check them out. Okay, without further ado, let's see what you think about this episode. All right, Gail, it's so awesome to have you on for round number 2 with the podcast. So thanks for coming back on the Compromised to Alchemized podcast.
Oh my gosh, you're so welcome. I was excited. I'm always excited to talk to you. But when I was mentioning recently that I was interviewed for a documentary and I launched a new app, and you're like, come back on the show. I'm like, of course. It's always great to talk to you.
I love what you said about, like, even just talking generally for a second about patriarchal patriarchal business models versus matriarchal, or like, tell me, let's talk more about that, just to say that. What does that look like, that difference to you?
So for me, when I created the Harmonic Egg LLC, I said it's going to be a divine feminine business model. There is no franchise. There is no, hey, you buy an egg from me and then you pay me, 10% of what you make every year. You go work your ass off and then you pay me. No, that's not how I see it. I don't see that pyramid where the person at the top is making all the money from the people at the bottom. I want to see that level out. So I put a lot of money into the company to promote the egg, the harmonic egg, so that it brings abundance for all the center owners. I'm not a franchise. I'm not collecting a franchise fee from them. That's very patriarchal. The more the matriarchal business model is, we're in community. We're in cooperation, not competition. So my Vermont centers calling the California center and saying, hey, I got a client coming out to California. She wants to come see you. Then you got the Texas location calling the Chicago location, and you got the Michigan location calling the Indiana location. And we have a private Facebook page. Now, how many technologies do you know that you buy the product from them, and once a month you get to be online with the CEO asking questions?
Yeah.
You buy a float tank. You're not online once a month with the CEO of the float tank company. They just take your money and run.
Yeah.
Well, you don't buy an infrared sauna and you get to be online with the CEO. I'm online with these people that have purchased the egg because I believe that is community. That is integrity. That's how we build each other up in cooperation instead of competition. That's what I'm talking about.
I really value that. It's so good. I mean, I just think of you just gave a few examples, and there's so many iterations of, like, when you have something and you then bring other people into it, there could be this way of, it makes me think of, when I first started as a chiropractor, got brought on into an organization, and it was just clear, sure, I'm going to learn some things, but it wasn't a fair at all structure. And I existed within that for about a year before I resigned. And clearly I learned pretty quickly, like, there are some people, especially when you're an innovator and you want to do something and you see change needed. There's no way I was going to work within another infrastructure for very long. Yet that being said, um, I love how you're giving space for these other pioneers, because you've, like, I even want to go back to, like, how you feel like you received the intelligence, you received the fabric of this egg. Like, it's like you talk about it as, like, you received it, you're transmitting it. Of course, you worked really hard to create it. Then you created it, and now you're having others who want to bring it to their own centers to bring innovative, pioneering healing with their mark on it. But obviously, there is, like, a beautiful combination of taking what you created and what they're creating, and it's like a co-creative process.
Yeah. I mean, and I don't want to be like Pollyanna or like, okay, things have to cost money.
Right.
You have to pay for production of films. I mean, I funded my film that I did, my documentary. I funded it on my own because I didn't want to take from the people that I was interviewing. I wanted just their knowledge. And then we followed it up with a book because, oh my gosh, we had 40 hours of beautiful content from these people with so much wisdom. And we did a 50-minute film. So I put it in a book and gave everybody a chapter. And of course, I funded that too. I didn't take anything from them. Um, and I've had people say, well, Gail, you created this beautiful thing, so it should be free. All right, so my manufacturers are supposed to pay their house payment with what? My installation team's going to pay for their kids' college education with what? Nothing? I mean, it can't be free. There has to be an exchange of energy. But I mean, there's so many people online that be like, oh, if you created something so great, it should be free. And they were talking about these med beds. And now I have issues with these med beds. They said they're going to be free, but I still have yet to see a med bed. Some people say that they've seen them. I don't know. I've never seen one. But when they first hit the market, I started laughing because they were just everywhere. People heard about the med beds and they were everywhere. And I thought, okay, healers are really bad at business, bad at marketing. So somebody else is behind this, not a beautiful healer, you know? And so I always laugh because I was like, the healers just generally are not. I mean, we're about helping people. We're not really good at business and marketing. When I first started selling the egg, I was telling the filmmaker Friday, I was losing money because all I did was think about, okay, how much does it cost me to make one of these? I didn't think about all the hard costs. Like I pay myself, I have staff, we have the web hosting, we pay for the Zoom, we pay for all these different monthly fees for storage and stuff. And so when I put all those expenses together, I was like, oh, I have to raise the price because I'm losing money. That's kind of how our mentality is as healers sometimes is let's just put something out there to help people, not thinking about money.
Right. Totally. Yeah. I remember. Yeah. So there's so much. There is so much to say there. So I think it's like, oh yeah, millions to talk about. I just think when we talk about like what, even what you bring with your community based, communal, and like it is about like, gathering people. I love that you do that. I love that you have that monthly check-in, and it's just sounds like such a great thing for everybody.
Well, when I first opened my center and I bought 2 of these light boxes, I watched the owner of the company just like, "Okay, here's my bank account information, wire the money." And I was like, "That's not how I would wanna run a business if I ran it. I wanna be in tune with the people. I want to connect with them. I want to be accessible to them." Now, maybe I'm a little too accessible sometimes, and that is one of my downfalls. But I love the monthly meeting. It's our owner call, and we have the private Facebook page so they can all, peer to peer communicate with each other, and I don't influence that. I let them communicate and support each other there, and then I come on once a month and support them however I need to support them. And then I constantly create new music because as our planet's changing, our vibrations are changing. And it feels like the egg keeps increasing its vibration. So then it needs new music. It needs to keep increasing the vibration. And I look for musicians that have this high heart energy and they're beautiful souls that just want their music out there to help people to heal. Because I think ego can get in the way and can compromise the integrity of music, especially if you're on that same radio station,
Yeah.
like the same frequency.
Oh, this is a perfect time for me to ask you this question, and I mean, at least I think it's perfect time.
It's your
Judge me.
show.
It's my show. No, I'm just kidding. Do you remember I asked you this question? So, context, those of you listening, you don't know because you're crazy what the harmonic egg is. You should know what this is. No, you can link, there'll be a link to the prior episode that we did. And of course, I'm pretty sure you'll, down the rabbit hole. But last time I asked you a question of like, if an alien, if somebody from another planet
Right.
asked you to describe what the egg is, but I'm gonna pivot because we've already done that.
Yeah, yeah.
But this is more of like to explain the senses. So if you were explaining the egg to somebody who maybe all they could do is hear, like they don't have sight.
Yeah.
Um, and you're describing what it is, but I'm not really thinking like, oh, just explain all the visuals of it. Because let's say this person has never seen, so they don't even know what you're talking about. Even if you say it's an egg shape, then they're like, well, yeah, that's
What an egg is, right?
they don't really know what an egg is. But let's just say maybe they do know, maybe they have been able to see, and so. But explain it to somebody who can feel, and that's their gift and their superpower is they feel. They're a feeler energetically. They're also a feeler with texture, and maybe this is because they don't have sight. I don't know. Let's
Yeah.
just say, can you explain it to somebody? What is the egg? What is the harmonic egg to somebody
I
else?
love your questions. This is going to make me really think. So I'm going to just kind of close my eyes. So if I were to explain this to somebody who couldn't see and they've never seen, it is such a beautiful question. I would say that they would enter a space
Hmm.
that would feel like a warm hug. Like it would feel like somebody was just embracing them. It would feel like they were in the womb space, just floating around, safe, comfortable, it's just feeling so much love. Then they would hear instruments that would come in from the side, but it would sound like it was circling all around you in that hug, in that womb space. You would hear it everywhere, but it was really just on the sides of where we call these speakers that project sound. You would then feel very light, very floaty, almost as if there was a universal wisdom that you were tapped into, your higher self. You were tapped into this universal wisdom and you knew everything and you were using the most of your brain to process information. You could feel into your body. You knew that perfect health was your right, was your birthright. You would listen to this music for about 40 minutes if time exists, but time doesn't exist. It might feel like 5 minutes. And then the music would fade out and you would sit in silence for 10 minutes to let your nervous system feel what it felt like to feel that love, to feel in the womb, to feel that warm hug. And you would then have access to all the information, all the wisdom that you could ever desire.
Now we sit in silence for 10 minutes that you described that so we can all experience real time. Just kidding. Don't worry about that. We won't have 10 minutes. This is really good though. Oh wow. I love that. Thank you for taking us there. I really feel like because I've been in it, I felt transported to inside it. But when we started, oh, I felt like you were describing going into a concert hall and then the orchestra like sound starts playing, but it's not like from the stage at the front. It's like musicians came from to the left and to the right of you playing just for you. Maybe like in Italy if somebody came up and they were playing the violin. And then when you started describing the speakers, of course I thought, "Ooh, this is like people talking, whispering the knowledge of the universe, the mysteries of untold time to you." And then when you described all the things of like, and then you got to a linear 40 minutes, which was great because I think people need to know there's a certain set time, there's a certain formula. But that being said, 40 minutes can feel like five because time does transcend because you're getting this intermingling of information and experience that takes you beyond. And
Yeah.
what a cool description. So love that. That was great.
I mean, I've never been asked that before. I never went there before. I felt like I was almost lifted out of my body. So I had to find something to ground. So I went to time because I was like, okay, I can't lift out of my body right now. So yeah, that was really fun. I love that kind of stuff. You have such amazing questions like that. I
Yeah.
don't know where you pull these out of the universe, but that was fun.
I look at it as like when we started talking, there began to become clear, like we were both up for a conversation. And so in our shared interest in like what is going to happen, yeah, that came through. So I think like it's really cool because you went there and I feel like the the it's really cool because I think it is like to some extent somebody might experience like something out of that, and so somebody who might go find a harmonic egg, and I'm going to ask you a little bit more about that part, but they might find a harmonic egg, and they might be like, "Wow, well, I heard Gail share about what it was like, and now they're going to hear some of that narrated in their experience, and it will color their experience, so to speak, whether they have sight or not." So very cool. I love it. I want to hear more about yeah, I want to hear more about this app if you can share about that. Tell me more about it.
Well, a lot of people felt like, well, I can't afford to buy an egg for my house. Of course, most people can't. Some people can. Well, I can't afford to do, $150 session. Okay, so what we created music downloads that you could download the music. But, I mean, we have a WAV file, and if people don't
Mhm,
understand an MP3 file, if you take a waveform, if you go up and down like a AC waveform, alternating current, I'm an
mhm.
engineer, so sometimes I use these,
Right.
so and then you cut off the top of the waveform and you cut off the bottom. You lose so much integrity.
Mhm,
And, Steve Jobs didn't do us any favors by letting us put 1,000 songs on an iPod because they're all just shitty songs that the nervous systems doesn't understand the binary code. It gets confused because it's compressed music. So first of all, I knew that I needed to create the WAV files, or some people call them wave files. It's a .wav, and it's a full expression of the music. If you think about a MP3 file maybe being 5 megabytes, a WAV file is about 500 to 800 megabytes
mm, mhm,
for the same 40-minute piece of music. And so I wanted to make sure I created that because I wanted the nervous system to know this is a one, this is a zero binary code, this is a zero, this is a one, no guessing.
mhm,
Did the music downloads, and people are like, well, I can't afford $20 for a music download. Okay, so let me create an app and let me give you access to all the songs in our library for 10 bucks a month.
mm,
Everybody can afford 10 bucks a month. And they have song notes. We did the app with an animated mandala where
mm,
you can change the colors on your own. You can be like, I want to look at purple. I want to look at blue. You get to choose two colors if you want to. And then you can look at the song notes and it'll say, hey, this is recorded in the, key of B for the nervous system. This is recorded in the key of C for your heart. This is recorded for the chakra of the root chakra. And you're going to use, in while you're listening to it, you can wear the color, red for the root chakra. So I wanted to create an experience for people, but I still have people complaining. They're like, oh, it's not worth 10 bucks a month. I can get access to free music on YouTube, and I have more of a selection. Great. You want to go to McDonald's and get a hamburger. I want to feed you organic, grass fed beef.
yeah.
So you go get your hamburger at McDonald's and you listen to your MP3 files on YouTube for free. Great. That's not my audience. My audience is the one that wants to feed their body organic food in the form of this music. There's apps out there that are healing apps that use MP3 files, but I understand it's less of a server space that they have to purchase to
Mm,
store these MP3 files. I'm not looking at that. I'm looking at what is the best for the user.
mhm,
So I love the little mandala. And then people are like, "Well, Gail, you suck because you put, all this beautiful music on a phone that has all this EMFs."
mm,
If
mhm,
you can get people to stop using their phones, then good luck to you. But at least I'm putting great vibes
mhm.
into the atmosphere through these EMF, phones.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of another word, but yeah, I mean, there is so much EMF, and even I'm addicted
Yeah,
to it.
yeah, amplifier, right? That's I could have interjected that word. I was thinking of it towards the end. Yeah, yeah. They do amplify, they do. But we have yes, I think it's real and it's real. It's good to mention that. But I think it's also yeah, we like to an extent, the ones who can bear it and can deal with it, there's good things out there that can help deflect and protect us against that. So we do
Yeah,
have that so that we can enjoy the
thing, yeah.
ease and the convenience of technology. It's like it's that dual-edged I don't know.
Double-edged sword. Yeah, for sure.
Double-edged sword, dual-edged or double-sided coin thing.
And it's true. I mean, I feel like we got used to 2G, we got used to 3G, we got used to 4G. Our bodies are really resilient.
Yeah.
Talking about air quality too. I mean, like everywhere we have pollution, we have EMFs on our phones, and we have this. This is one of my soapboxes. We have a regulatory fee in Colorado. It just went up to 31 cents every time Amazon comes to my door, or Home Depot, or anything that you get delivered. They charge 31 cents. So think about
Mm.
5 million people that live in Colorado. Every day they get a delivery, they got to pay 31 cents. And it's supposed to be so that they can work on the air quality. Okay, they've started this in 2022.
Uh-huh.
Our air quality yesterday was 105.
Oh,
When you go to, like, I went to Antigua, it was their air quality was 0. It's beautiful. 105. In 4 years, you've been collecting millions and millions and millions and millions. Like, there's over $200 million that they've collected. And 4 years later, the air quality is 105. Come on, Colorado, get your shit together. It is such a soapbox of mine. Whenever I see that fee, I just get so irritated.
well, I can see that. I can see that. And I mean, I guess, yeah, I didn't know that. I mean, I didn't know it was that. I mean, because, that's like, with different places I've lived in, air quality can get up there. But I remember, especially when the fires hit,
Yeah,
that
there's going on. Yeah.
car fire, when it hit there in 2018, um, I remember we were like, well, that was really bad, and you would see it. But then I remember that I went to one, different website, and it took readings, and I was like, oh, that's not great other times of the year either. So I began to find out Redding up there in NorCal, not great air. But then we looked on the map, where can we go? Our son was only 2 weeks old. We need to get to some clean air. He needs to breathe in clean air.
Yeah.
Santa Cruz, California had a 4. We're like, we're going to the 4. And oh my gosh, it was pristine. So that contrast is like, wow. But yeah, I was like, why is our air quality so bad normally in Redding? That is not cool. But so I didn't realize I'm going to be there in Colorado next week. So I'm going to have to be, now that I'm aware of it. No, I'm just kidding. It's not going to be any worse than last time. It's going to be the same as last time, but it is good to be aware of those things.
I mean, yeah, I look at it every day, and it's in the 50s, it's in the 30s, but it doesn't get really lower than that. I've not seen it very, like never 0. Like when we went to Antigua, I was like, oh my God, or like you said, 4. I've had more allergies and, more congestion, and it's annoying. We went
Yeah.
to Orange Beach, Alabama. Now this is a theory, but I don't know if this is true or not. This is what somebody told me. They said they moved to Huntsville, Alabama. And I was like, it's somebody in this community that, you would probably know. And I was like, why Huntsville, Alabama? And she said, because a lot of government workers live there. So the air quality is clean, the water's clean because they clean it for themselves. And I was like, oh,
Right.
okay, I get it,
That
So
makes sense.
it was interesting. And I don't think I'm a conspiracy theorist. I just use a little bit of common sense.
I think common sense takes you a long way to realize things like that make sense. It's like, well, of course. Yeah. I mean, now that you know it, okay.
Yeah.
Well, maybe talk to me a little bit about, I know you mentioned resilience, which I love in terms of like the lexicon of the nervous system. We're even talking about like these systems we have. I mean, this is really the epitome of compromised to alchemized in one way,
Yeah.
in that we have compromise happening, struggling, suffering. But in one way too, it's like in some of us, we could have the bombardment of these things happening at all times that could compromise us. But what is our alchemy? How do we alchemize it? How do we make it through? And I look at the egg as a great answer for that in one way, but can you tell me a little bit more about like, what are the ways the harmonic egg does alchemize us, or does more so edify us so that we can be more impervious and resilient to these existing stressors?
Yeah, because if you listen, I was just a little meme came out from Dolores Cannon today on Instagram, and she said, we should never be sick.
Hmm.
And I was like, yes, we should never be sick. If our nervous system is in balance, if we're staying out of fight or flight, our bodies can heal themselves. So there's really no magic egg or magic pill or magic yoga, pose. There's the nervous system. And the nervous system and our bodies are the magic. But unless we can learn how to alchemize that and how to balance that, then we are going to get sick. So what I do is I use the harmonic egg, but I also do deep breathing and I do yoga. I spend time in nature. I have the little sand timers. So I flip the sand timer when it's 30, one's 45 minutes, one's 30 minutes. I get up. You got to have movement. You can't just sit stagnant. We gotta have, balance in our life in all areas of our life. So I believe that we're being chased by the saber-toothed tiger all day long, or a bear, or a mountain lion, whatever you want to call it. And so you got to take the kids to soccer, football, you got to go to the grocery store, you got to take out the trash, you got to clean the house, you got to go to work, you got to, make sure you take a shower, you got to brush your teeth. We have so many things that we're doing. We're not being human beings at all. We're human doings all day long. And I'm guilty of it because I have a task list from hell, and I'm supporting, 250 some egg owners and really wanting to create abundance for them. But I also have to put my oxygen mask on first.
Mhm.
If I don't put my oxygen mask on first, then I'm not good to anybody. So I feel like the Dalai Lama once said what made him laugh about the human beings were they spend their whole life making all this money, and then the rest of their life they spend all the money trying to get their health back.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be that. I want to make sure I'm taking care of me. So, you got to prioritize things and find ways to not feel like you're being chased by the bear all day. And, if it's hiring someone to clean your house, getting the groceries delivered, just finding ways to get to buy your time back. And if you don't have the money, there's a lot of things that can happen for free. Um, you can find ways to even use sound and light therapy at home. Get a blue lamp and project that blue light for calming, or paint some of your walls where you spend a lot of time blues, purples, greens, not reds, not yellows, not oranges, because they're stimulating colors. You don't want to be stimulated all the time. That's why I always tell my center owners, don't use those colors on children. They're already overstimulated. You've got young kids, you know how stimulated they are. You want to kind of calm them down.
Oh yeah.
I feel like we have to find a way to take our power back, to take our lives back. And I struggle with it on a daily basis myself. I want to keep doing podcasts and spending time to film, documentaries so that people know about the egg, so that all my 256, people that have bought the egg, that they can see clients if they want to, or some of them just have them at their house. Some of the centers have more than more than one egg. So how do I create abundance? How do I, influence and inspire the world and bring hope to people about healing their own body and still take care of me? It's hard.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a conundrum, but I think you gave some really cool. I love the ideas on. It just brings me back to like, well, of course, like arts and craft time with our kids, and my wife did such a great job of like making sure that we have like a lot of these supplies, and the kids love it. And actually, there's a local museum called the Moxie, which is museum of, no, I don't know what the X is, but it's like really cool science based, but it's really sensory. So we used to, before we moved to Santa Barbara, we would go to there. But one of the favorite things our kids love to do is they have like a workshop area where you can go in, and they have all these craft supplies. And it's kind of like our older kids, they're now like 10 and almost 8. They're kind of like they've already done the other things, and they're like, that's cool. But now that we've been here 20 times, but the craft time never gets old because they have cork and they have construction paper, glue guns, and it's like, ooh. And I'm like, when I go in there, I'm like, guys, we need to do this more often because I'll get creating with them. And I'm like, there's endless possibility when you tap in to the creativity inside. And I think that's what you kind of like just little broach the topic there of like, even the color, that you paint your rooms, you can do some healthy programming or healthy, coloring of your walls. And so I love that, because I think there's some people who maybe they love the bio optimize, they love to get the red light and all the tech, but then it's like, but then how can we make our regular lives, our whole lives all day exemplify these healing aspects? So it was great. I love that part.
Glad you brought that up, because I'm actually doing what's called like a rug looping kit. It's you take the little yarn things and then I'm making a mandala rug for the
Yeah.
side of my bed. So I see that
Yeah.
every morning and it's all colorful. But I color, I draw,
Mm.
so it's calming, it's relaxing. I did a talk to um the fire department one time because we had a first responder that had PTSD and nothing was helping her. It was a fire in our town where people were burning inside the building and they couldn't save them all. They were screaming for help and they're not allowed to, really put their lives at risk and like jump through windows, but they were because they were trying to save everybody. And she had nightmares for a long time. And after 3 sessions in the egg, it helped her. So she asked me to speak to the fire department. But they're a tough group. I mean, everybody in the world wants to tell them, they can help them with their PTSD, and they really don't have any help. I was trying to share with them that water sounds will help with PTSD. And one of the gentlemen came up to me afterwards. He said, my dad was a Vietnam veteran and he comes over my house, just sits in the backyard because I put a fountain back there. Now, he didn't know why he put the fountain, but he loves it. His
Yeah.
dad, or he didn't know why his dad loved to sit back there. And when I said it helps PTSD, he's like, the light bulb went off. But I told them the color, and they all like just kind of shut me out. They were all sitting there. You could tell that I lost them.
Yeah.
The coloring is relaxing.
Yeah, and I think it's like having there's a childlike qualities that don't need to be staying relegated to and I feel like you and like I feel similarly about like when I'm engaging in like writing for the sake of writing. It doesn't have to be journaling. It could be getting out thoughts and putting them on the page. And I like to, for my own refinement and nourishment, I do. And then I also have this like 5 M's practice that I created like right before my daughter was born. So almost 11 years ago, where I just took, mapping, which is like journaling, meditation, movement, music, and musing. And I just had them as an interlocking flow that could be like 1 minute each, although I never could spend that little time on it. 15 minutes total, or some days like 4 hours. If I woke up super early and I was like, oh, I have 4 a.m. and I have some hours, I would just back and forth in a flow with these things. But so then maybe just the story that was coming up is
What's musing? I don't know what musing. What is
musing
what?
is like, so yeah, I usually differentiate and say meditation could be a lot of things, but I think a lot of us know that there are different ways to meditate. Musing is more like when you muse upon something, you think of it. So it's more like a thinking, pondering. And when you muse on it, you might be like, I wonder, yeah, I'm just gonna muse now for the sake of like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm looking at the tree. It's a palm tree, and I'm watching it sway in the wind. And I'm just thinking, first of all, I want to move like it, but that's movement. But if I muse upon like, what, yeah, what would it be like if that wind didn't exist right now? There's no such thing as wind. Is that tree actually dancing? Am I watching ether? Is there ether in the world that's actually moving that tree? Is wind a byproduct of ether? So just musing on those, like thinking out loud. You don't have to think out loud. I was thinking out loud. That's different than like meditating, which is like in between those observations of like the tree dancing. All of a sudden, I lose sight and sense of where I am at in space and time, and I go into a zone. That to me is like meditation. But I usually use musing as like a diving board or a little place if I'm especially if I'm active in thoughts. I'm like, I've learned by now, my sister gave me this wisdom, other people, like if you've got a bunch of thoughts, and racing, but you want stillness and you want to meditate or you want to engage, yeah, get a journal out and then just put those thoughts onto the page so they can exist and you're not invalidating them. And you can be like, good, I poured that out. Then there's a space of stillness that exists. And that's kind of what I think musing in and of itself I love because like I'll mention another adaptation. I saw the word co-muse appear before my eyes back in 2011, and it was the first conversation I had with my wife that was like we had one conversation that was like half an hour because I just met her, and then the next time we talked, we happened to move into the same apartment complex in the same city 2 weeks later, and we talked for 5 hours by the pool until the sun went down, and I heard the words, "You 2 will be co-muses." So I'm
Yeah.
like so I asked, "What does that mean?" And I heard some things that the whispers in the voice told me, and it was like, yeah, you'll be able to inspire one another through writing. And but to co-muse, I love because then it's like two people musing together on something, which is just a little borrowed term. But that's musing. That's the word.
I love that. I did a muse. I call it going down a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Did a muse with my horse the other day, and I didn't realize that I was doing this until you said this, but I just needed to escape from my own reality. And I went into the barn and I looked at her and I'm like, we as human beings take animals away from their moms. We take them away. And then is it karma that our moms are taken away from us?
Hmm.
And then I asked her, I said, "Do you think your mom is going to be there when you pass away? Is she going to be there waiting for you?" I think my mom will be there waiting for me when I pass away. Do we think that an animal's mom is waiting for them to meet them when they pass away? Even though we take them away from their mom so quickly and early.
Hmm. Yeah.
It made me cry, and I'm trying not to
Mm.
now because it was just such a muse. Um,
Hmm.
but I felt the energy of you and your wife and how you are molding your children to
Hmm.
be critical thinkers, and I'm just so proud of that for you.
Hmm. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. Yeah. And Dawn, my wife,
Dawn,
she's
okay.
very intentional at creating these thinking of as a mother would, creating a life. And so although I've done a lot of this on my own, separate in a silo, vast abundances of meditation and musing, then we did it together. But now I'm learning from her on, but yeah, that's all good, Neil. Like fine and good. But first of all, can we keep that up and let's go? And then also, how can we do that in a way that brings our kids? I'm really good at certain things with our kids, like dancing and laughing and singing, and then I really appreciate her visionary way of that maternally outputting like a like let's build an existence for them in a reality where they can habitate in that. And so I'm learning about that, and I feel like the more I learn about that, the more I realize, ooh, I can now use some of my skills and abilities, but put them into an existing maternal. So this is why I want to go back to it's
Yeah,
like I value that maternal matriarchal structure so much because it thinks for life, to create life, to foster nourishment. And I appreciate healthy masculinity and healthy patriarchy, yet misogyny and colonial and taking mentality, I can't stand. So
yeah,
I really look at my wife Dawn and seeing like she really found a way to take a lot of things and merge them. And so as we co-create that together and co-muse in that, I feel like wow, it's going to be really good to see what our kids do because I think they're
yeah.
going to go further and deeper than we will because they're going to take what we've figured out, at this point, and they're going to start they're initiating the first decade of their lives like this, which is like I'm so excited for that because I can't see what they will. Can't wait to see what they'll do.
Yeah, no, it's such an important thing for parents to raise their kids the way that you and Dawn are raising your kids. And we do need the masculine and we need the feminine energy, but the
Yeah.
masculine energy has kind of been the only word I can think of is bastardized. I mean, that's the only word I can think of. Um, because the masculine energy is so important. For me, my boyfriend is like my grounding. I mean, he's very simple. Food, sex, he's good. A little bit of attention, he's good. The female brain is more complicated. And so I need him to ground me sometimes when I'm floating out of my body and he can pull me back down. But he supports me like the divine goddess. And everything that I do, he supports me. And I am just in so much gratitude for him. And that's what we need, those kind of relationships in our lives, whether your partner is, two females, two males, it doesn't matter. It has to be that balance where we support each other in balance.
Yeah. Back to I realized as you were sharing that, I was like, well, I also want to go back to what you just shared though, is very touching, like when you were sharing about the musing you had with your horse. And one, yeah, it was really touching and beautiful. Did you feel like you heard anything? What did you tell me this, or did you hear anything back? Did you ask, and did you feel like you got a response?
She's 30 years old. So technically, if you convert that to human years, she's 100.
Oh yeah.
And she's just, I feel like a little bit of a cranky old lady. And she's like, "You
Mm,
crazy," and it feels like she knows everything, but how does she, I have the emotions of it, but let me think of the words. It feels like she knows everything and she just assumes that I should know everything too.
mhm,
There's something there. I can talk to the trees. I can talk. There's a pine tree out front, and I have my trash can there where I put all the horses' manure in. And one day I was walking past the tree, and the tree was like, "Thank you so much." And I was like, "For what?" They're like, "This is a different smell. This is a
mm,
different, like, it's new. I can't move. I can't go do things and I can't go explore things, but you just gave me something new to explore, to smell, to feel, to, have a different energy." So I try to entertain my trees. I try to entertain my horse. I have two barn cats as well. I feel like we all have some kind of a telepathy together.
mhm,
And when the fireworks for the 4th of July the other day, it was such a beautiful thing. My boyfriend made sure he was home for his dog because his dog's afraid of fireworks. I made sure I was home for my two cats and my horse. But we literally sat there and watched the fireworks together from the horse's pasture. The horse was standing by her fence. My girl cat was laying behind me, and my boy cat was sitting next to me. And it was such a joyful moment for me to be watching the fireworks with my family, my little fur family.
mm, mhm,
They get me.
mhm.
Hope I get them. 'Cause
Yeah.
even though they're cats, they're 2 different, very different, they have different needs. They have different emotions, they have different everything, and if we could just tune into each other that way and support each other the way that we believe that we need to be supported, like, what a beautiful world we could live in.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, and it's really like these beings that you're talking about, and then from the cats to the trees, it's like it's life on this planet, and we do have this tapestry of like connectedness that we share. And I think it's like when you yourself, um, when you're viewing this as such a beautiful sacred existence and then you're going to be sentimental because you're putting sentiment, you're putting thought, consciousness, and you put your heart into it. So like I can see that clearly. Like you put your heart out there for people. But I mean, before we get to people, we'll go back to like for your animals, for your land, for
Yeah.
the trees, it's like all of these are here. And I love it. I was, from an early age to my kids, I was told them, for ground. Well, speaking about Bruce Lipton again and how he was terms of like a good, a good person to talk about grounding and getting negative ions, getting electrons. But when my kids were like all like just enough, I was putting them in a carrier, when they're like one, I would say, they weren't putting feet on the ground on the grass when we would go for these walks, maybe cold mornings, whatever it was. And I put them in the carrier, and we'd walk up and I'd say, go ahead and now let's go ahead and touch that tree so we can get negative ions and thank that tree for its electrons. Just like let's make contact with, but not forget that we are touching life. And if we can remember that, you know, this is not self-serving intended, but we can feel more alive because we are here, and this isn't just an object, it's a living, breathing tree.
Yeah.
But also then we can pay homage to the fact that this tree is, not just pouring out oxygen, like that's not the only thing it's doing. It's giving us green, fluttering leaves that are like muses for dancing. And I would this big palm tree in Reading that was in the middle of this park I used to take my daughter Serenity to when she was only one, and in the carrier, huge palm fronds would be just falling off the tree. So I'd pick one up and I would drag it through the air in circles, and then I would use it as a calligraphy pen to write calligraphy in the air. And so I think, she's quite an interpretive dancer and she's quite a poet, and she learned some of that from Dawn. But I feel like just the way that I view, and I think her too, and we do, is like you look at this all around us as a way to commune and to be one with this environment. So um just seeing how dear you talking about these, your cats and your all of your people, your beings, it's like that's precious. And I think it's like a really touching. So
Thank you. Yeah, I went to the Muir Woods Forest. Have you been to Muir Woods in California?
I know I've been like
Where-
I think I've been there once. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been there like a half a dozen times. And there's one tree on the trail that no one visits because you have to go off the trail. So I remember walking past it and it said come visit me. So I went off the trail and I walked down to the tree, and my boyfriend's like, "You're going to get in trouble, you're off the trail." I'm like, "Okay, history is made by those that break the rules." I mean, we got to be respectful of rules, but I mean, I'm always looking for ways to break the rules. And that tree
Mhm.
just said nobody comes to visit me. And I understood why, because that's off the trail.
Mhm.
So I had to go put my hands on it and just give it a hug, which, the redwood trees, you can't really give them a hug. They're
Right.
huge. I just love the redwoods.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of abundance. I love trees. I miss the trees in our property in Reading. We had like 100 trees at least, and or way
Mhm.
more than that. But there's always a sense. I look at trees as like embryology, as well, like my topic that I love to talk about. But it's like looking at where do we come from, and of course I can't help but think of like family trees. And we these you walk down even like Santa Monica Boulevard, and then these trees that sprawl like horizontally, and you can lay on them and you just feel like wow. And it was just, you've been talking with somebody about cypress trees, and of course my middle one's name is Cypress, and so we're always recognizing cypress trees. It's like, yeah, it's little, but it's significant when you look at the like I when my son was saying I'm bored the other day, I'm like, "How do you get bored?" I don't know what it's like. I used to know what that was like. I used to know what that was like, but but I cannot remember, or I can't find my way to boredom because even if I'm not like going off on a million rabbit holes or muses, I
Yeah.
just like to stand in awe and appreciate what we have. Of course, the very second I say that, I do think of I was just talking with somebody about who lost their cat literally in the neighborhood yesterday. And then on the podcast recently, somebody who did lose a cat, and they were talking about how one cat was grieving that loss, the sibling cat. And I was like, wow, I could see that. And so then people, lives lost, and all of that's going on out there in the world. And you know what? I want to switch though to, I don't want to bypass grief because grieving is really actually
Yeah. Yeah.
important. But I will say that there was, in that conversation of talking about, even this conversation talking about the recognition of life lost. Um, I, I remember somehow that tags to somebody was out here recently for a 2-day system reset experience, and we spend the second day we go out to the beach, and for 1 hour I lead people on the 5 M's. and how to use these in their lives. And it's meant to be a little template. There's way more than that happens. It's way more about what somebody needs to access healing. That's not the 3 hours of manual therapy that we're doing in the office around that. So it's in this moment, I remember this person, and she's like, yeah, I don't do much visualization because that's a huge part of like pathways towards meditation or even healing. So I was like, okay, let's just close our eyes, listen to the sound of the ocean. And then, I had her pick out, like, now pick out the furthest away place in the water that you can place, that furthest place that you can find. Listen to what the water sounds like right there. And then now I want us to make your way, visualize yourself. If you see the trace of the water along the shore, and then around the tree line out there, and then where the water meets the sky, I want you to see that as a track. Now walk on that perimeter and make your way out to that one spot. And I want you to then stand there and turn and look at yourself. Well, I'll skip the media, the in between parts of this, um, in the flow, spontaneous. But I had her make her way back to her own body, however she wanted. She could swim, she could fly, she could transport. Um, but before she did that, she said to me, when I was out there, I immediately dropped all the tension in my body, in my joints, and I dropped it into the water. And I love that because I'm like, "Oh, that would have made sense to have her do," but that wasn't the point for me to say like, "Oh, I should have done that." I stopped and I'm like, "Oh, I just so glad she did that." She said, "When I did that out there, I felt all the pain and tension go away in her body here, right on the beach, on the shoreline, so that when she found her way back to her body, she didn't feel the pain." And I'm like, "That's beautiful." That was that unintended goal. She felt led to do that because the parts that I saw for her to do, she followed those dance steps and she was willing to collaborate, and she made her way out there and she did her own thing. And I love that because, kind of to your point, it's like I think we all have these keys, or let's just say that some of us have the ability to access the keys within us and to transmute that and to transform that and to alchemize that into right now relief or healing. So it was really beautiful to see her do that, and to see what she did, because then she came back different, to the beach. So I think
Well,
that was a
gift that you gave her, because we don't know what we don't know. And so a
yeah.
lot of I think everybody has the gift to for healing and to heal themselves, to listen to their body. But just like you said at the in the middle of this podcast, how do you explain the egg to someone who's never seen?
Hmm.
We're we're saying you have this ability, but when you don't even know what that feels like, or you don't know what that looks like, how do you know what you don't know?
Hmm.
Until you learn those tools, just know that there are tools out there for everyone to heal naturally, to tune into their body, to find what is going on at the root cause, and to heal without pills and surgeries and all this kind of other, too many supplements. Or there's a new term out there that I was putting out. People are doing too much energy medicine now.
Hmm.
They're getting frequency hangovers. Just like drinking too much alcohol, you can do too much energy work and get a frequency hangover and hurt yourself. So we have to do things in moderation too.
Yeah, I feel like you're saying something golden true, and then I just like just think about how sometimes I get super silly, and I'm thinking in a moment. I think this leads back to like you and your value for your land, and then also you have a pretty good, funny sense of humor. So anthropomorphizing or even personifying something like, I was doing this with my kids the other day, all the time. Most of the time we spend taking an object like this microphone and this, or even the microphone, and the microphone's like, "Hey, Neil." I'm like, "Yeah." And it's like, "You're getting awfully close to me. I think I'd like some space." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry." Well, then Dale can't hear me, and all people in there, and then the microphone's like, "Is that more important or I'm more important?" I'm like, "I'm so sorry. You're right. I could just totally turn the volume." Ow! And then I'm
Yeah, yeah.
so the microphone's like, "Hey, do it." Anyways, I feel like we all just need to just be silly and have more fun. And it's not the always answer to the always everything, but I feel like this is why I've got this unintentional. You didn't know it, but I've got this unintentional shift that I made on my podcast from talking a lot about consciousness for a while after talking about compromise to alchemized, and I'm like, it's always there. But then I'm like, yeah, but I feel like we need more comedy. So I
Yeah.
sort of have this thing of like, we just need to be silly to make light of ourselves. To and so this leads me to my my question, Gail. I was gonna wait till next time. I'm like, okay, Gail, we talked about the egg like an alien would see it. We talked about the egg as if somebody's can't have doesn't have the gift of sight. But what if we don't even have bodies? If we are molecules, atoms, subatomic particles. Let me get geeky enough for you. What if we're a quark or a gluon or even an electron? Like, what would an electron say? Forget the egg for a second, because I'll ask you round 3. I'm going to ask you this question about the egg, but maybe it's something different. If you were an electron, what would you say about all of us humans trying to get us? Right? We're always trying to get these electrons. We're always trying to take. Is that colonial? Is that negative? Or no? Is this a beautiful exchange that exists? Can you just talk to me like an electron for a second?
So you're saying the electron is going, why are all these humans trying to get us?
Like
that-
if you're an electron and you're in a tree
Yeah.
and people go up to a tree to ground, they're going there to get negative ions. They're going to take the electrons so that we can feel good and healing and grounding. So if you were an electron living in, let's just say, do you want to be a tree electron, or do you want to be
Right.
whatever you want to be? Whatever electron you want to be, tell me where you are. Tell me who you are as an electron. Tell me where you exist, and tell me, how do you feel about people going up to you and getting you?
Okay.
Taking you?
So, I mean, I'm just trying to bring myself into that space of the electron, and being me, my personality. If the electron was my personality, I would be all over the place because I want to explore. I'd be like, okay, let me see if I want to be on this horse. Oh no, she's getting old. I'm going to go to this little cat. Oh, this cat's having really fun today. I want to stay with this cat for a while. Oh shoot, that cat just killed a blue jay. I don't want to be with this cat anymore because, oh, that poor blue jay. And let me go like give some energy to that poor blue jay who just died by the cat. And then let me go to that human. Oh, that human? No, that human's got shitty energy. I don't want to be around that human. Let me go find another human. I would just bounce all over the place. Let me feel like what it would be to be in the elm tree. Let me go to the oak tree. Let me go to the pine tree. Oh, that's kind of prickly. I don't really like that. I would be everywhere.
I love it. You're just so giving, right? You're just like, and also you want to have fun. But I love the part where you're like, I don't want to be around that person. They have negative energy. So then people will be like, wait, does that mean that if we have negative energy, we can't get electrons? No, you're not saying that. You're just saying, yeah, you just like a wild ride. If what would this theme music be like if this was a movie of your life? It feels like it would be like a whole new world or something like that.
Yeah, no, it would be not a rap song. There's a song that's like from one of the Star Trek movies that comes up. Do, 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 do,
Oh, yeah, totally. New Horizon. Yeah.
Yeah.
When I started telling you about it, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is kind of like Inside Out, but more subatomic. Or even there was that movie that was way old. It was not Inner Space. That was like Rick Moranis. Or I don't think that was Rick Moranis. That was Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. I don't know, but whatever it was, when I brought it up to you, I suddenly started to hear tones of Chris Rock in my voice. So I'm gonna be ridiculous and say, if I was an electron, I'd be like, hey, why you gotta go grab me? Why are you take me away? I was on this tree and I was just sitting down for lunch. You're gonna take me away? You selfish human. But I don't really think that. I don't really think that.
That's pretty good, Chris Rock.
It was like a little bit of Chris Rock, a little bit of Eddie Murphy, but sub quality. I'll work on it. But here we go. But then here's aspirational Chris Rock. It's like, oh yeah, you know what? I wasn't thinking that I was gonna go bless that community over there, but you just brought me over to Uganda, and now I get to go help the people of Uganda. So this is maybe Chris Rock thinking like his journey as an electron. That's if as an electron. So thanks for humoring me, Gail. You're always up for it, and I love that about you. So well, I feel like that's a we're gonna go out on a high here of like we just lived the life of an electron, and what better life is there?
Sounds
So,
good.
do you have anything else though you would like to, how can people find you, tune into what you're doing now? And I think these things are just the place where I want to make sure you can maybe even, yeah, just give that way that people can concretely get in touch with you and find out more about you.
Oh, it's easy. Go to harmonicegg.com. You can find my books, my documentary, the app, music. You can find everything there. My musing of blogs that I put, like,
Mhm.
I do a lot of blog posts when, triggers are treasures, and, or I'll just post some random muse. So you can find anything there.
Cool. Well, yeah, exciting. And this was fun. Thanks so much for the conversation. I'll be sending you a message at some point about round 3, and who knows what we'll talk about then. But
Who knows?
more than that, yeah, I'm sorry I'll miss you, or we can't connect. I'll be there in your state, your area next week, but maybe next time, and we can actually hang out in person. But until then, it's
Till
just a
then,
blast to get to talk with you this way.
thank you. Have a good trip.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Compromise to Alchemize podcast. Really excited to thank Jessica from Lunalux for the music, this track called Major. I want to thank Toshi, who originally did the design work for my cover art. And then I also want to thank Alyssa from my team for podcast publishing, my whole team, including Kat, for heading up my world. And then also definitely want you all to follow me on YouTube, follow the podcast on Spotify or Apple or wherever you get your podcast. Comment, give us a rating, and also follow me on Instagram at Dr. Neil Bulchandani so you can stay tuned to my latest. Thanks so much, and you have an amazing day.
This is major.